our handwriting analyst who has analyzed many thousands of handwriting samples since 1991. A sought-after expert, she has been consulted for every presidential election and frequently appears in the media. Kathi enjoys edu-training audiences about handwriting analysis. She resides in a rural area in Parker, surrounded by deer with her beloved companion, Cody Blue, a Shih Tzu Bichon mix, affectionately known as the teddy bear breed. Let's welcome Kathi McKnight.
Thank you.
Kathi did analyze my handwriting and was spot on me.
It was scary, right?
It was really scary.
Good morning, everybody. I am so glad to be here. I don't get down to Cherry Creek very often as I live way out there, and I was glad to meet some of you beforehand. So I know a little bit about you. Who here has ever had their handwriting analyzed before?
I have.
Okay, and two more other people. That's so normal when I speak to groups. And so I'm going to just do a quick little check-in with you, really quick, because I have a jam-packed presentation for you today. And just really quick, what would you like to leave today? What would you like to get out today? Show a hand and just yell it out. What would you like to get out of it today? If you don't know, it's okay.
If we see some type of handwriting, can we find out something about that person immediately?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes.
I'd like to know that, but make some complex signature.
Oh, great. Okay. Take notes on these comments. These are great. Power signature. Okay, and one more. Yes.
Can you change your signature?
Well, you're just setting me up for my talk. Okay, let's dive in. Yes, you can change your signature. You can change your writing to change your life. A lot of people come to me because handwriting analysis, there's 5,000 things that it can tell. There's 4 major things that it does not. Speaking of which, I have handouts, and you can take notes, and you're all going to get to analyze your own handwriting today.
Kathi, let me do that.
Yes, if you could do
Jerry
that for
can
me
do
really
it.
quick.
We can pass
Because,
it
so on the notes, so there's 5,000 things that handwriting can reveal. It's an ancient science that's been around since the days of Aristotle, and it's been used in over 80% of the corporations in Europe for employment screening, and in many, many of the Fortune 500 companies. It's just a lot more hush-hush. And yes, a lot of people are worried about me because they know that schools are hardly teaching them anymore. I'm like, don't worry about me. There's still a generation out there who learned how to write. In fact, those of you, when you learned how to write in school, do you remember we all had to learn how to write exactly the same? And what would happen if we didn't? We got in big trouble. And those in some of the Catholic schools, by well-meaning nuns, some people in the audiences, they remember getting their knuckles wrapped if you did wrong. So here's the interesting thing. Just as there's no two snowflakes alike and no two fingerprints alike, neither are there any two handwriting samples alike, even though we all learn how to write exactly the same. Now, why is that? Because what we write, let me give you the core secret of how it's so accurate. What we write comes from the conscious mind, but how we write comes from the subconscious mind. So your handwriting is a very authentic expression of yourself. Okay, let's see here. So before we start, before you learn anything, would you please write a sentence on there? And for this exercise, please do your best to write in cursive. I know some of you don't, some of you can't, but just do your best to eke out. She sells seashells by the seashore. Yes, I do. She sells seashells by the seashore. I hope these work.
Okay.
How you normally, well, this one I want you to write in cursive. Does anybody else need a pen? And then just for fun, which I don't normally do this, I hope one of these work. So put your signature, whatever's your normal signature underneath that. And then set that aside, we're going to come back to that. So as I was telling you, I'll give you a chance to write that. We're going to come right to that, and then put your signature. Okay, everybody got that done? So it's interesting because when anybody finds out that I analyze handwriting, I get one of two responses. And I've been doing this a long time. For example, if I'm sitting on a plane and I'm sitting next to somebody or I'm at a party, and it comes out when I do get one of two responses. It's either do my handwriting, or they recoil in fear, afraid that I will find out that they are the one and only bona fide psycho killer in the room. Did they have that fear today? You're normal. I have seen a few psycho killers, but usually not in my audiences, so no worries. So there's 5,000 things it tells, there's 4 things it does not. It does not predict the future. It does not tell, you can write these down for yourself if you want. It does not tell the age of the writer. Believe me, I have analyzed 100-year-olds and 20-year-olds, and it's flip-flop of what you think it might be. Everybody's different. It does not tell the sex of the writer, and that surprises a lot of people. It doesn't tell if they're male or female. And the last one surprises everybody. It doesn't tell if you're left-handed or right-handed, because there are just about as many left-handed people who write with a right slant, you're right this way, as there are left-handed people, well, right-handed people that write with the left slant. The reason is because handwriting is actually very writing. So if you were to put a pen in your teeth and practice your own signature for 2 years, your handwriting, your signature would look exactly as it is today. So I can analyze somebody whether they have a pen in their teeth, between their fingers, their toes, a paraplegic, or anything else, because it's brain writing. It starts out with the nerve impulse in the brain, which travels down the neck and the arm and the hand and the wrist and the hand and the fingers, which is holding the pen, and that splashes ink onto the paper, revealing so many things about yourself, your gifts, your superpowers, your challenges. Again, what we write comes from the conscious, how we write comes from the subconscious. Now, like I said, it's been around since the days of Aristotle, and it's used in many of the courts. This is not forensics. This tells you about the person, Okay, so it was asked of me how I got into this. So when I was a little girl, I had an incredible dad. He exposed me to many wonderful things, only one of which was handwriting analysis. Fast forward many, many years later, I graduated college. I'm in corporate America, and I'm feeling really burnt out. I'm feeling like a cage bird, clipped wings, wanting to do something more in line with my soul. And so it was a Sunday afternoon, and I'm flipping through a college catalog, thinking of reinventing myself, and I come across a class on handwriting analysis. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. And I go to work the next day, and I tell some of my friends, and they're like, well, we want to do it too. So the instructor made a class for me and my friends. And at the end of it, she was at the community college, and she pulled me aside and she said, she tugged me on the sleeve, and she said, Kathi, you have the calling for this work. I thought, okay, that's nice. She goes, no, I'm serious. You really do. And so she insisted that I study under a master graphologist at that time, right here in town. And I did, and the rest, as they say, is history or cursory. And back then, there weren't websites or anything else. But I took the work, and the media latched on to me. I have not ever sought out the media. They have found me. Dr. Oz, Oprah Magazine. I did go to a publicity summit in New York because I was so curious. Because I had this idea, which I'm writing a little book now, that's called Race Your Dates Before You Meet. And this is the tips booklet. And I'd heard, the magic around this, so I wanted to go and see what they thought. They all were really interested in it. So I'm finally writing the grown-up version of that. I'm getting on track now. So that's how I got into it. And I've done a lot of workshops, and I love speaking at conferences. And there's people that have found more ways to use the subject than I could ever come up with. I think that is really interesting. But when we look at handwriting, what we look at are we look at, first of all, is it legible? Is it illegible? Is the writing have soft pressure, real pressure, or heavy pressure? Okay, when the producer, Dr. Oz, called me, which my jaw dropped on the floor when it happened, they were asking me questions, and they said, "What's it mean when you write so heavy that the page curls?" And I was a massage therapist too, Kathy, in the city. Lots of saying that you did too, interesting with the same name. And I said, "It's time for them to get a massage." And they laughed, they put me on the show. And we write with an incredibly intense pressure. It means you are intense. The nice word is to say you're passionate. The accuracy is you're intense. You are extremely passionate and intense, whether you're cooking, arguing, decorating, going for a walk with your dog. Okay, still things very strongly. Conversely, when people have very light pressure, they feel things just as strongly, it's just they don't let it affect them. They let things roll off their back like a duck with water. And they can move from place to place. So realtors, it's good to know that. You come across somebody with very light handwriting, they're pretty easy about moving. Okay, so there's, I will digress just a little bit here. Now, I know that there are frequently asked questions, people aren't writing that much anymore, it's not being taught anymore, but there is a campaign called Campaign for Cursive that's getting things started back in the schools again, very fortunately. And when I went to the library, I saw somebody homeschooling, so I think it's coming back. And I used to have the statistics on just how many states are doing it. I don't know exactly. I think it's like 13 and more coming back. Let's see here. Okay, so as I mentioned, we look at the upper loops and lower loops, the pressure, the slant, the size, the spacing within the word, the spacing between the words, the spacing between the sentences. Margins tell a whole story, where the I's are dotted, where the T's are crossed. So you can tell there's a lot of individual things and then static traits, one upon another. So it tells this whole voice story about another language. And somebody brought up a signature. The signature is an entity all by itself. You think about it, when we write our name, it's a personal expression of who we are, right? So the interesting thing is what shows up in the signature, your signature, carries 3 to 5 times the weight of importance compared to what shows up in the rest of other handwriting. Now, I never analyzed somebody just by their signature alone, but what shows up really packs a punch. So there was a story about, I've been doing this for quite a while, and people knew about me a little bit. And I'm at a barbecue on the weekend, on the Sunday afternoon, and there is a woman I know, she's an artist, and she was apparently getting ready to have her artwork displayed in an art gallery in New York for the first time, and she was signing her paintings, and she was obsessed with hunting me down. She wanted to find out how she should sign her paintings, because she knew that, whenever you look at handwriting, even body language, you get so much more off of it, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, she hunted me down to this barbecue and insisted that I help her rewrite her signature, and so in a very healthy way that would exude prosperity and everything else. And then shortly after that, I got contacted by the Denver Art Museum, and they wanted me to pick out my favorite artists in 3 galleries and give a walking tour and analyze their signatures, and then they hired me to do mini analyses for everybody who came. So I thought, I need to create a session just for the signature alone. So I created a $1 million signature makeover session and package for that. Because with brainwriting and handwriting and graphic therapy, that's the change of writing to change your life. So I think so many people know about the neural pathways in the brain these days. It's almost like a buzzword. And so when you change your handwriting strategically over 21 days, specifically and consistently, you create new neural pathways in the brain. So we all have good and ungood in our handwriting. What about all that? We all have good and ungood in our handwriting. Okay, and it's just when we look at it, we say, do some of these strokes still serve us? What we write comes from the conscious, how we write comes from the subconscious. So, let's see here. So, I want to keep on track here. Before I move to the next section, does anybody have a question? Yes, question.
I notice a difference with pens on how I write. Are you going to address that, or do you talk about that? Like today, I've got a really good pen. Amy almost borrowed it, but I'm like, oh,
Love it.
that is a good pen. Like
Love
it's a
good
medium point. Like we all have our different
Nice.
preferences, right?
Yes. From the graphologist's point of view, the core strokes don't change. From the layman's point of view, yes, your handwriting will be different if you're writing out your grocery list and you're in a hurry and you're writing it in a car versus if you're hand addressing wedding invitations. However, core strokes pretty much stay the same. Now, some people come to me and, I can tell they've had a hell of a lot of stress in their life. So that will show. And with that being said, your handwriting is never exactly the same every time you write it. There's always slight differences, which is so interesting. Yes.
So have you ever looked like at the Declaration of Independence and looked at all the founders?
Of course.
Yeah.
You bet.
All right.
And every January, I give a thing about John Hancock's handwriting. He's a favorite for all of us graphologists because he was the first one to sign, and he wrote very large and very flamboyantly. And those people who signed the Declaration of Independence, they were putting their life on the line. If it went south, they were all being hanged. So he was bold, he was the largest, he was most flamboyant, and he said he wanted to make sure that the bad king could read it even without his spectacles. So yeah. So we coined the National Handwriting Analysis Day and week around John Hancock's birthday. Thank you for that question. Yes. Oh yes. The first one was what about a pen? Does your handwriting change according to that? And I wanted to say one more thing about that. Is I noticed that my handwriting will change after I've taken a yoga class. Okay. So like I said, the core strokes are still there. And this one was the color ink. I mean, that can be a whole other, it can be married with color therapy without question. It can be. I've had companies hire me to analyze the fonts that they're using in their graphic design. And I'm like, what? But then I did, and it's like, you tell a lot because you're choosing a certain font that expresses. I will say this, when people use a writing utensil that's very dark and very heavy, they are picking something that can express something that they're not able or willing to express themselves yet. That speaks to more of the pressure versus lights. So, yes, so much we get into it. Yes. You're what? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. We get that a lot. A little bit, yeah, a little bit. It means extreme independence. It means that you don't really get to know who they are. Okay. And unless you're really by the end, there's here's the thing. This is the best way to explain that. It's called block printing. So when you write in cursive, every letter is connected, right? And so it's a lot about relationship. When you only print all the time, each letter stands alone as an independent little island. So there's a sweeping generalization about printers. It's sort of a good news, bad news thing. Printers are extremely intelligent and very quick anticipatory reactions. My teachers used to say, think of Bond, James Bond. And the third thing is, it's a little harder to get to know them intimately. Okay, there's a little bit of separation and independence and a stepping back. When it's block printing, that's magnified even more. Now, how many of you combine script or cursive with printing? A lot of you. So a lot of people like you are drawn to hear a talk like this because when you combine printing and script, it shows a lot of intuition, a good sixth sense. Alrighty then. Yes. Mm. Yes. That's lawyer or warrior? Peaceful warrior. Well, typically, when we write in all lowercase, especially the personal pronoun I, usually that shows a humble and reduced sense of self and self-importance. But I would need to see, the rest of the handwriting. There's so many things, so we stack all of it. Because other things in the handwriting will either enhance that principle or begin to pull away from that principle. Let's see here. Okay, so which one do I want to do first? Let's go ahead and bring up two volunteers. Two brave. Okay, you raise your hand first. And yes, come on up. Let's give them a hand. There you go. All right. Come on up. Come on down. The price is right. And just go ahead and sign your name right up here. I'll hold this to make sure. And
it's weird using this pen.
of course, we take that into consideration that it's straight up and down and it's a marker. So we'll give them some grace. Won't we?
Yeah. Normally it's more
Oh, okay. All right. There's nothing by accident here. Yes, I do. You were, I have to get in front of it, but if it's more straight, that means that you were in your head at the time you're writing it. More analytical, more cerebral. Okay, great. Thank you. You guys can have a seat. Now, here's what we're going to do. So you were born a natural graphologist. You guys are going to analyze the handwriting. Now, before you do, let me preface it. You're not going to tell me what you think it means. You don't have the skill set for that. But what I'd love for you to do is notice what you noticed about the actual handwriting and the handwriting strokes. If you could just shout it out, that'd be great. Catherine did not connect all the letters in the first name. Great. Yes.
Is it Madison? Yeah. Madison is left-handed and she's not right.
Excellent observation. Madison is left-handed and the writing slants right. Thank you. Yes, or Emma's print, not script. Great. Anybody? Catherine looks like the print cursive you learned. Yes, that we learned growing up. Excellent, very good job. The M and the G in this name is larger. Okay, that's good. So I'm not going to get very much into analyzing this right now because sometimes it can get really personal, but I am going to tell you some basic principles. In a signature, anytime that the first initial of the name is larger than the rest of the signature or the name, that's actually a positive thing to have. It means a strong sense of self. I've heard it called a strong ego, which can have a negative connotation, but you need to have a strong ego and strong sense of self in order to be successful in business, don't you? So we have that. Notice that this one has their middle initial and this one does not. So there are 6 styles of signatures that have nothing to do with the handwriting, which I have a handout on that at home. And when there is a middle initial, these are people who will adhere by social mores. Okay, they're going to adhere to the convention and things like that. When it's the first name and the last name only, these are people who are slightly more independent, slightly more outspoken, a little bit more. Well, we'd have to look at other handwriting to see if it was rebellious or not, but stand out on their own. Now, notice Madison has a very far right slant. So in your own handwriting, if your slant, the farther it slants to the right, the more extroverted you are, and mostly the more heart-centered you are. Your heart over head. You make your most important decisions from your heart instead of your head. Usually, you're very sentimental. Friends and family mean the world to you. And typically, people who have a far right slant, they can be impulsive, but the highs have been high and the lows have been low. Now, with people who write straight up and down, completely vertical, sometimes we eyeball handwriting. It looks like it's straight up and down, but when you measure it, there's a little bit of a slant to it. And I'm not going to get too deep because we don't have that much time today. But when it's absolutely straight up and down, vertical, these are people who are head over heart. They are cerebral, they are practical, they make good managers, they're logical, they're fair-minded. And if you want to win an argument with them, do not bring your tears. They do not like drama. Bring spreadsheets, facts, and calculations. And also, they're an introvert. People who write with a far left slant, these are people who are withdrawn, actually. They play the role of an extrovert as needed, but both the straight up and down slant and the people who slant to the left, being around crowds for a period of time will exhaust them. They need to get off by themselves. Okay, I hope that answers some questions. Let's see here. So that's what we said, you're a pathologist. So think of it. Haven't we all seen beautiful handwriting before? And we think, oh, this must be somebody's really got their act together. They're probably eloquent and artistic and it's beautiful. And then we've all seen chicken sections. Perhaps you know them intimately, right? You didn't get my joke. And you think, oh my God, this could be the handwriting of a psycho killer or worse doctor. Okay, so yeah, you were born a natural graphologist, and yet if you saw Mother Teresa's handwriting, you would be appalled as to what it really means. But she found a way to channel her things, demons, issues, whatever, into. Yes, you had a question.
I was just saying, so it's slanted one way or the other, does that dictate differently if it's in a different direction, or is it just slanted?
Say that again.
If it's slanted to the left, or to the right, does having a right slant mean less slant?
Yes. The right slant is people who are extroverted and heart-centered, and the left slant are people who are withdrawn and within themselves. They can be extroverted, but they have, some people who've gone through trauma. For a short while, they might write with a left slant for a while. Okay. So it's all, we all have good and ungood, and, it's all whatever works for you, whatever serves you. Yes. Way bigger. Yes. The question was, you make a good point, and I will definitely address that. She brought up that the first letter of a name is capitalized, so naturally it would be larger. But there's 3 zones in handwriting. There's upper, middle, and lower. And so, for example, let's take the name. I want to say Alan. And let's apply this principle. Use the black. And it could be printed, or I'll make it. That's what I'm talking about. Compared. Now, if it was the same style as here, it would be, well, let's do this. See what I'm talking about? So this is the upper zone here. This is the middle zone. And if somebody dips down into the lower zone down here, and it should not be a lower zone letter, like a lower zone letter would be like G or J. And there's more Y, Z. The lower loops are all in the lower zone, which has to do with the past and other things. The middle zone has to do with the present, so we can change things within the handwriting, or that can even change because of how you are day to day, and then the upper zone. So anyway, is that clear? Okay. So for the sake of time, let me tell you a couple stories, and then how would you like to see what your handwriting says? Okay, so somebody asked me, have I ever seen any dangerous handwriting? I say, yes, I have. So I was doing a black tie auction once, and I was hired just to do quick mini analyses, and it was black tie, tuxedo, the whole 9 yards. And I was just telling quick things that I see, because I had a lot of experience doing that. And somebody came across my table, and I mean, their handwriting looked to me like it was a smoking gun, like literally, like almost see the gunpowder off of it. And I tell the truth every time, but I thought, they're not paying me enough to deal with this one. And it's like, I'm just going to get him on his way. I don't want to even do that. So I just say some generalities. And at the end of it, he says, let me ask you something. He says, do you see anything in my handwriting that says that I could hurt somebody? And I didn't skip a beat. I said, yes, I do. Why? He said, because last week I shot somebody. And again, I'm very practical, because I'd been hired to do a murder trial, and I took shortly before that. And I just said, did you kill him? I already knew. Handwriting already told me. And he started to say yes, and then he said no. And then the answer is a little bit anticlimactic, but still, he was a guard at a gun show, and there was another guard there, and a couple of guys broke in with guns and started shooting at the gun show, and they shot back. And one of the guards' bullets killed one of them, but they don't know which guard's bullet killed them. So it was interesting because I was still pretty young in my career, and it would have been really interesting to see his handwriting before that event, to see if the remnants of the violence was there before this event and he found a job where he could act out on it, or if it provoked what was in the handwriting. So handwriting never lies. Okay? So one other quick story. One of the, well, the first event I ever did after I was certified, I actually worked down at the Gaylord Street Festival. So funny to tell you guys, you know exactly where that is. So I speak all over the world, and you don't know where that is. And this gal, I'll never forget her as long as I live. She's probably about 14 years old. She had brown hair, and she writes, and in her handwriting was the letter T. Now it had a loop in it. So whenever we have loops in our letter T's, that means we're a little bit sensitive to criticism. And when it's there all the time, and the bigger the loop, the bigger the meaning. So I'm new with what I'm doing, and I say, oh, you're sensitive to criticism. She says, I am not. So it's a study of human nature, too. Okay, so one more story, and then we're going to get down to your handwriting, because you're the most important people in the world. Let's see. Oh yeah, I was speaking on a cruise. It was my first time on a cruise, my first time to Hawaii, and my first time to speak on a cruise. And so there were people who hired me for sessions throughout after I was speaking. And this lady was Swedish. Now she was very strong, had masculine energy to her. She was pretty tall, really tall, dressed impeccably, very confident. So I see her handwriting. Now, here's the thing. Whenever I do 5,000 things it reveals, whenever I do somebody's handwriting, there's always 2 to 3 things that jump off the page and smack me in the face. And that's how I know that's where we're to start, because that's the most important. So what I noticed on hers, all through her handwriting, which was cursive, is her S's were open at the bottom, right here. So when we have an S, for this to apply, it needs to be over 50% of S's that are open at the bottom. When this happens, it means that we are giving our power away to something outside of ourselves. We're saying yes when we really want to say no, or we're saying no when we really want to say yes. And so I brought that up to her, and she said, excuse me. I said, I brought up to her what it means, and she says, no, you're so mistaken. No, my friends would totally disagree with you. That's not me at all. I said, all righty then. So we kept going, and this thing is still like vibrating off the paper to me. And I just finally said, hold the boat here. I said, what's going on? And she said, well, if you must know, I am, she was Swedish. So she had an accent. She said, I am a compulsive gambler. And she says, I fly from Sweden to Las Vegas, not just every month, but several times a month. And she goes, I'm scared to death for my marriage, for everything. And she goes, it's what you would call in America, she says, I need to go to Gamblers Anonymous. And then she got a twinkle in her eye and she said, but I love it. So if in your handwriting sample you have open bottom S's, does this mean that you're a compulsive gambler? No. No. It just might mean that you're saying yes to potato chips when you really want to say no. Or you're saying yes to going to a party when you really want to stay home. Or you're saying no to getting up on stage or asking for your promotion when deep down you really want to say yes. So I've worked with people and I've helped them. I have some great stories, which we don't have time for today, but stories of when. So when I do a full session, sometimes when I speak, sometimes people want to know about their own handwriting. So if you don't mind, I can just tell you a little bit about how that can work. I offer a basic session that's a certain amount of handwriting, 1 page, to tell you everything about yourself for half an hour. The fuller sessions get into breath therapy. And there's 2 of them, the $1 Million Signature Makeover, and then there's the one where I look at 2 pages of handwriting, where I have them write out hope, dreams, and fears. Now they can write about color blue, or their favorite vacation, or anything. I still feel the same amount. It doesn't matter to me what they write. But when they write about hopes, dreams, and fears, it's fascinating what keystrokes can show up in key words that give both of us more meaning. And so for that session, I pick the number 1 stroke at a subconscious level that's working against them. Show them how to rewrite that strategically over 21 days, and that's created in neural pathway and create new habits and patterns. Okay. Now, look at your handwriting, and so the S's, you know what the S's mean now. I know some of you have written S's where they're printed. Am I right? Of course. And then some of you, so that means that it doesn't have a strong meaning, but there is a literary interest in there, a type of a literary interest, and you bring a little extra creativity to every day. Some of you, this is a fun one, you close. Yes. Who closes their S's and then swings it forward? Does anybody do that? Great. These are people who are really good at sales. Strong persuasive abilities. Okay? Yeah. Whether you're in sales or not. You might be just a granny at home, but you're really persuasive with those grandkids. So that's persuasive. And then most people, you interact with the different strokes. Okay. So I've given you an awful lot of information. Anybody overwhelmed, or are we okay? Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. I want you to high five your neighbor and say, you're a natural graphologist. You're a natural graphologist. All right. Because you are. Okay, any questions?
How about those L's?
How about those L's?
Like, I don't know, just, so there's how many ways there are to write L's, but there's a few ways to write L's.
Of course, yes. I could give,
I usually am always.
you just want me to tell you
Yeah.
something about it? Okay. We are just going to be finishing up here.
Close on time.
Thought we had to do.
No, that's okay. We got time for it. Just,
You can't.
Lots of L's, cells and shells.
well, I can tell you about every letter. I had to pick one letter, so I picked S's.
Yeah.
She sells seashells by the seashore, had a lot of S's.
Yeah.
So really quick, I can tell you about the L's. If you have loops in your cursive letter L's, that's a really great thing. It means you have lots of hopes and dreams about the future. Okay. When, if your L is completely closed, I'm going to stop and tell you, stop listening to the news. Stop believing everything that you hear. That has to do with think and think. Like, don't believe everything you think. That's like your hopes and dreams have been squelched out. So when L's are open, think of it like blowing a balloon, that's where hopes and dreams are. Like we came in with. Good thing you remember. Excellent. And then of course, we look at the pressure and when Dr. Oz had me on the show, they wanted me to talk about the subject of help in handwriting. And so there's things like if within one letter you go dark and then light and dark, that can reveal sometimes blood pressure issues. Sometimes when there's certain, well, in my book here, I don't get into it, but I do tell a stroke that was very interesting because it happened to me. And it shows if there's some kind of perhaps a heart issue going on. Your handwriting can reveal it long before it would show up on tests. So it can be a warning to like say, hey, let's just check this out. Maybe check your cholesterol. And then from an emotional point of view, it was Dr. Oz himself who said the need to please creates heart disease. So, people pleasers sometimes get that too. So that's in my book as well. And there's a couple of good jokes in here too. I meant to pass these around. I didn't get that done. I'm sorry about that. My book's $2.20. My book is $5. Okay. Let's see. So the thing about graphic therapy, I want to leave you with this point. To best explain it, because people were afraid, does this change your personality? I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's like, think about Michelangelo. People asked him, how did you create David, this masterpiece? And he said, I just removed everything that David was not. And that's what graphic therapy does. It clears away some of the baggage and gets you back down to your authentic self. Any final questions? All right. Well, if not, thank you very much.
And how do we contact you?
Oh,